Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is going to be, I think, a fun live stream. At least that's my hope, is that it is going to be a fun live stream. This was kind of an impromptu thing for me to jump on here. I've been a bigger fan of going live during the daytime because I enjoy mixing it up with people at a different hour than I normally do for the live streams, which happen to be mostly in the evening. So I enjoyed the midday thing. And I actually was not going to go live. It's been a very hard day, a very stressful day, and I was actually not going to go live today. But then someone sent me an email, a guy by the name of God's Perfect Idiot 75. Fantastic name. God's Perfect Idiot 75. Shout out to you, brother, for giving me a heads up on something. And we are going to dig into this topic in just a couple of moments. And I'm going to need you all's assistance because I'm doing this all just like straight impromptu. And we are just going to just mix it up and we are going to have some fun. So I want to say hello to Mr. Ramirez is here. LA River Gong, I think, is here. Comics and Beers is in the house. Unruly Simeon, Downright Nerdy Podcast is in the house. My Bay Area friend, how you doing? Collecto 6 is here. Gotham City Comics is in here. Lost Comic Junkie, Stay Puff. How you doing, bro? It's good to see you, my man. Perry Comics is in the house. Mr. Comic 89 is here. Joa is in the house. How you doing, bro? It is good to see you. Same thing with James Tomlinson. It is awesome that you guys were able to join me. He says Reg Promptu. Brett Hess Art, how you doing? You guys make me laugh. You really do. So I want to start this live stream off with talking about somebody that is very important to me. This guy, and I want to do some quick math here because I want to make sure that I get this right. Yeah, that's right. All right. So I have a very good friend by the name of Rodney. And, you know, Rodney Green is my buddy. And when I first met Rodney, I didn't necessarily know if I was going to like Rodney because he has a different personality than mine, a different temperament, a different attitude, a different outlook on life. And I didn't know if he was the kind of guy that I could jive with. You know, and I first met Rodney in 1999. 1999, when I was pursuing membership in an organization by the name of Kappa Alpha Psi. And for those that recognize it, yes, I am a fraternity guy. I've actually belonged to several different organizations. One of them is Kappa Alpha Psi. That is my fraternity. Kappa Alpha Psi Incorporated. And I met Rodney when I was in pursuit of membership into that organization. And thankfully, I was able to get in, as was Rodney, along with several other people. And Rodney was, again, he was a different kind of dude. And, you know, this was back in, I was fresh out of college, and we used to go out a lot, and I just wasn't jiving with him. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up moving from Maryland to California. And Rodney and I spoke every day, every single day for at least 1 year. When I first left Maryland and went to California, we weren't even that good of friends when I left. We spoke every day, whether it was on the phone or a very long text message conversation. He became one of my favorite people in the entire world. And we don't talk every day now, but we were great friends. Rodney is actually responsible for me buying my first house. Rodney came out and he visited me, and he said he found out where I was living. He was staying at the house with me. And he was like, "How much are you paying for rent?" So I told him, and he said, "You know, you can buy a house, right?" And I'm like, "What do you mean I can buy a house?" Because I was saving for a house, thinking, you know, I need to have this huge nest egg of money because I was living in California at the time. He pops open his computer. He opens a spreadsheet. He starts plugging in numbers. How much do you have saved? How much is your house? How much is the house that you're looking at buying? How much are you paying in rent? He runs this thing. He turns it around. He said, you can get a house right now for $100 more than what you're paying in rent. He left on a Friday. On Monday afternoon, I had an offer on a house. That's the impression that Rodney had on my life. We were actually, this is back when I used to drink. We were stopped by the police one day in downtown Burbank, California, and we were in trouble for jaywalking. And I was upset because we were stopped by the police for jaywalking. And I got upset. Rodney pulled me to the side and he said, "You need to chill out. You need to let it go." Right. And that is just one, just two examples. Three technically, because he called me every day. We talked every day. Then he stopped me from getting arrested. He helped me get a house. This is what I think friendship looks like. Rodney will be my friend until I am under the earth. That is my buddy. I think that Rob Liefeld needs a buddy like Rodney Green. That's what Rodney Green has to do with this story. I think all of us at various points in our lives need a friend that will pull us to the side and say, "You need to stop. You need to settle down. You need to chill out. You need to do things a little bit differently than how you're doing them right now, because how you're doing them isn't necessarily working." Yeah, I got the house, brother. I got the house. I'll tell you that story another day, Rob. But I got the house, and I've had many other houses because of what Rodney helped me do. That one weekend that he hung out with me in California, Rodney was there when I met my wife. She was actually not my wife, but my girlfriend. Not even a girlfriend. She was a girl that I met at the gym, that I met again at the bar, and whatever. But Rob Liefeld needs a Rodney Green in his life, a friend that can pull him to the side and tell him that he needs to chill out. You know what I'm saying? And so what happened today is God's, well, let me make sure I get his name correctly. God's Perfect Idiot 75 hit me on Instagram, and he said something along the lines of, "Have you seen what Rob Liefeld was talking about today?" And I had not, because I've been kind of busy. It's been not a great day for me. So I immediately jumped online. I did some searches. I jumped on Twitter, and I started trying to read what was happening. Lost Comic Junkie says, "I know what you mean." Joe says, "Rob needs a hug." So Rob is stuck acting the same way he did in his 20s, but now he's in his 40s, and it's not cool anymore. I think, isn't he in his 50s? I could be wrong about that. But I jumped online, I started doing some research, and basically what Rob Liefeld is saying right now is that he is essentially predicting the demise, the downfall of DC Comics. He is basically saying that DC Comics is going to fail. And I mean, to some degree or another, I'm playing right into Rob's hands, right? Because, I've been sitting here for like the last hour or so trying to figure out what is his angle. What is it that he is trying to accomplish? Because that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing, is finding out the motivations behind the actions that people take. And I am honestly struggling with why he is doing the things that he's doing. Ramos said, Ramos says it's a small feet thing. Oh my goodness. Rob Worth says, "Are we back to 0 days since Rob Liefeld said something stupid?" Gotham City Comics says he needs a Rodney. Bro, I'm telling you, Rodney Green has saved me more times than not. Let me tell you. He's still quite the character, but he is probably my best friend. There's no doubt about that. I was trying to couch it, but now it's probably true. And he'll never see this video because he doesn't do social media, and he certainly doesn't do YouTube comic book stuff. So, but Rob was on Twitter, and he basically says, let me see if I can find the exact one, because he went on for quite some time with his various comments that he was making. And one of his comments here, he says, this was 8 hours ago. He says, "DC Comics gonna drive off a cliff here real soon. Gotta get my popcorn." There were 62 comments to that, 23 retweets, and 180 people like that. So he said, "DC Comics gonna drive off a cliff here real soon. Gonna get my popcorn." So I don't know what would motivate him to say that. I don't know what would motivate him to say that, because who actively promotes the demise of an institution? Because that's what DC and Marvel are, right? I mean, yes, they're organizations, but they are institutions. Let's be honest. They've been around for such a long time. Um, Captain Terror says Marvel is trying to beat DC to the cliff. Now that might be true, but who basically welcomes the demise of an organization and then almost celebrates the downfall of that institution by saying they're going to get some popcorn and watch it happen. Who does that? Who does that? Who roots for someone to fail? I struggle, and I don't know Rob. I'll never meet Rob, and probably more than likely I won't ever meet him. But I struggle with his motivation, with what would inspire him to come on Twitter and basically talk about the demise of an organization, of an institution, and actually want it to fail. And what's interesting is that he actually goes on about an hour after the first comment and he says, Twitter is like my burner phone, right? So burner phones are phones that are used by people in some cases to do illegal activities, to do things that cannot be traced back to them, to basically hide in the shadows of anonymity. And he is essentially saying that Twitter is his burner phone. Twitter is his ability to be a keyboard hero, to say negative things that can't be traced back to him, but they can be. They can be, at least until he deletes them. So I found that that very interesting, that he would make those statements. That's a hilarious and wonderful Liefeld, someone says. Rob Ware says DC was around before Rob. It'll be around after Rob. Someone says it's fake news. I don't know if that's in based upon me making these comments or what Rob is saying. Let me see. Perry Comics says he needs to stay relevant to sell his major. So that was part of my thought. That was part of my thought, because again, I go back to what is it that would motivate him to do these things? And Perry Comics hits on it. It's about relevancy. He is attempting to stay relevant by keeping the news churning about him, to keep people talking about. And that's what essentially I was saying, is that I am giving him essentially what he wants by doing this live stream with 63 people here. I am essentially giving him what he wants. But it's one of those things where someone throws out a softball, you kind of got to take a whack at it, right? So I'm taking my whack. But that was my thought, was that maybe he is trying to stay relevant to continue selling his issues. Because if you read his profile, on Twitter, and I actually had not until today. If you read his profile, and I'm trying to pull it up here, so bear with me. His profile actually says best-selling author, creator of Deadpool, Cable, X-Force, Domino, Major X, Prophet Brigade, started Image Comics, wait for it, ruled planet Earth, pro third-party candidate. There is so much in there that there's like eight videos worth of content right there. Best-selling author and creator. Okay. Ruled planet Earth. Interesting. Pro third-party candidate. There is some interesting stuff there. I think someone in the comment section says that Rob needs a hug, and I would probably agree with that. James says he hated. That's a strong word, but I'm going to read it because I think it's still relevant. He says he hated Liefeld since he ruined New Mutants. You could be right about that. I cannot argue like that. Ed says, sounds like Rob has some hurt feelings about something. Yeah, they call it butt hurt. is the common phrasing here. Don't know why so far. Really limping Batman who laughs, and Batman is the last right is so good is one of the comments that's here. Someone says that Mark Tripp says that he is a little crazy, little baddie. Let's put it that way. James P says misery loves company. Deceased is sick. Yes, it is. He actually makes a comment. Here about I lost my train of thought there. It'll come back to me sooner or later. I'm scrolling through some of the comments here. Rob has always been about money, money, money. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. But to some degree or another, he is kind of shooting himself in the foot by taking aim at DC and basically saying that, that they are headed towards their demise. It's a little interesting that he would actually almost like shoot himself in the foot. And someone else actually made that comment, basically that you're not going to get any kind of business from DC by doing what you're doing. Benjamin actually said, burning some DC Comics bridges right there was one of the comments that Benjamin made here on Twitter. And Rob says burned past tense. So the way that I'm reading that is he's basically saying, he is just adding fuel to the fire to burn down what he's already burned down just because he can make it a little bit bigger. He goes on here at about 7 hours ago. He says, I've been making comic books professionally for 33 years since I was 18. I have record-setting sales. You want to attempt to lecture me, I'll block you faster than you can say my name. There was a lot in there. One Wolf Gun says maybe they told him to draw feet better. There's a couple. Rob Worst is basically saying Liefeld definitely wants to stay relevant in his tiny feet drawing. Marcus Muse is basically agreeing with that, with the need to stay relevant by saying outrageous and outlandish things to kind of get people's attention. Yeah, his profile is obnoxious, says Comic Food 2814. Downright Nerdy Podcast says, agree with Perry. And I don't know if I'm in the minority or not, but I'm not impressed with Major X in a general way. I don't know that a lot of people are impressed with Major X. I think that there are some Rob Liefeld fans out there, and that they love it. And I think that that's, again, one of the great things about this hobby is that there are all kinds of characters out there, both human and drawn characters that resonate with people. And I think that that's perfectly fine. I find, even if I loved Major X, I would find his behavior, Rob's behavior, to be a little bit of a downer for me. It's a little bit of a downer, the fact that he's been doing this for 33 years and he's done it for Image and Marvel and DC and other companies, and he would basically attack his professional colleagues. That gives me pause. It gives me pause that he would basically go off on his fellow creators who are all struggling to make a living. I mean, not struggling, but you know what I mean, trying to make a living. And he basically, at one point, I can't remember whether it was here in one of the articles that I was reading, but he basically says that, DC doesn't have the talent pool. DC does not have the talent to make things work. That's basically what he was saying. And it's almost like he is saying he is the talent that DC needs to turn things around. But would you dump on somebody that you're hoping to get work from? And that's why I go back to what I was saying before about the struggle behind, what is his motivation? What is it that he is trying to accomplish? And that makes the assumption that he actually has a master plan, that he actually has a purpose for the things that he does. And that's one of the things that I am a fan of is I do something because I believe that it's going to lead to this other thing. I don't just do random things and have no rhyme or reason for it, but maybe that's his thing. Maybe he's just reacting to what he sees, and he has no master plan, because that could be the reality. But I struggle. I struggle with what his motivation is. Brett Hess Art is on a roll. He says he needs a Liefeld intervention. A Liefeld invention. Liefeld invention? I think I'm saying that right. Rob Worth is making a great point here. He says, when you seek to tear down others, don't be surprised when you're torn down too. Yeah, I mean, I think that there is something to be said for that. I applaud people that have the ability to hold others up to disagree with people, but not necessarily be disagreeable. And I think that you can have your point of view, you can have your differences of opinion, but it's how you go about it. You don't have to necessarily attack someone to make a point and to be heard. And it's unfortunate, and I don't think Rob is saying this, and I'm certainly not saying it. I am not hoping for the demise of Rob Liefeld. That's not what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that maybe at some point he actually grows up. I watched a video the other day of him on Instagram with his lightsaber, and I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed the clip of him, breaking out his lightsaber and talking about how excited he was about it and how he named his first child, or I think it was his boy, I think, after one of the characters from Star Wars. I thought that was cool. Like, stick to that cool stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not some of this other stuff where you're, trying to tear down institutions and tear down other people. Comic Fu says his Spider-Man Deadpool number 47 is a prized possession. Just don't try to get it signed, bro. I would advise you not to get that. Do not slide that in front of him. Dennis is making a couple of comments here, and I missed some of your earlier ones, so I apologize for that. Dennis is making the point here that he doesn't really read DC anymore. I'm honestly not even really a DC fan, but I have been reading Deceased and I have been reading some Batman stuff, and I am loving it. I'm going to be honest with you. And Rob, one of the things that I really struggle with is that if someone makes a statement, I feel like the statement should be supported with data, with information, right? And not necessarily anecdotal stuff. Maybe that's just how I was trained. I feel like there should be something substantive there. And he's basically saying that the demise of DC is coming without any real substance behind it. And he cited like Tom King being dismissed from Batman as evidence of the demise. When the truth of the matter is that DC and Marvel are really neck and neck in some ways in terms of dollar sales and also units sold. They are relatively close. I think Marvel finished last year like 40 million and DC was at like 38 million or something like that. And there was a couple of months over the course of the year where DC actually outsold Marvel. I think by and large that DC is actually performing well. And here's my evidence. They have cut back the number of titles that they're releasing every single month. I personally view that as a good thing, right? When you take something like creative talent and energy and effort and you dilute it, you don't have as much value in that thing, right? Because you're trying to spread a fixed amount of talent across a number of titles, and stuff gets watered down. So what I see them trying to do is to cut back the number of titles that they release every single month with the hope that the quality will go up. I think that that's great. They are doing A and B covers by and large for variants, right? We have all complained about the variants and variant fatigue. They do an A and a B, and then occasionally they blow it out like for something special. But by and large, it's an A and B cover. And typically I've heard that the B cover is pretty darn good, right? I've picked up Deceased Superman and Batman, and both of those covers were dope, right? Simon Comics, that in story was hilarious of Rob. I think that those A and B covers that they do is a really good way to do it versus like Black Cat had how many variant covers for Black Cat, and I don't even know if the story was all that good. DC has kept a fixed number of variants. They have cut back the number of titles that they're releasing. I think in the end of 2018, Marvel had 100 titles in December. 100 titles were released in 1 month. Now, you cannot say that that's not a heavy weight on both the consumer and also on the local comic shop. And I think DC had a much smaller number than that. And DC has even constricted even more over the course of the last couple of months, which I think bodes well for consumers and also for local comic shops, because they're not struggling to buy all of these different comics with the hope that they can sell them. They're not struggling buying all of these comics with the hope that they can get the variants so that they can sell them. And then we aren't rushing to the comic shop to buy, $80 worth of comics every single week. I think DC is trying to do the right thing. And Rob looks at these things as the demise or the end of DC Comics. I look at them as being beneficial things. And again, keep in mind, DC has kept a relatively small number of variants. They produce fewer titles. They are not charging as much per book as Marvel, and yet they're still close to what Marvel is doing. What does that say? That actually bodes well. I personally think that that bodes really well for DC. If they continue to put out quality products, I think that this bodes well for them. So Cody says all you need is art germ variants. And P. Patrick, how you doing, brother? One of our former Go Collect winners here. He says Black Cat seemed like a Catwoman ripoff. I haven't read it, so I will defer to you. Ron Worth says, yeah, not trying to put the LCS out of business with the variants. People are gonna forget to pick up. Exactly, you know. Somebody else agreeing, Pug agreeing here with the Black Cat versus Catwoman. Rye is saying, I believe in DC Comics, but I am upset with the films over the years. Since 2010, they have maybe 2 good films in the DCEU. I read Metal or Deceased and was blown away. Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right about that, right? I think that DC themselves even recognized that what they were doing from the movies wasn't the right thing, which is why I think they hit the pause button on their the continuity, right? I think they hit the pause button because they realized with Warner Brothers that they weren't necessarily doing the right thing and they wanted to retool. Again, these are signs, in my opinion, of people that are trying to pull things back in an effort to wrap their hands around it to make it better, right? Versus pulling it back because the market is constricting. I don't think that that's what's happening. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But what I see is them trying to put out less, better quality product, which at the end of the day is what we all want. If we hand over $4 or $5 or whatever it is for a comic, we want a good comic. We don't want filler, right? And I think that that's what DC is attempting to do. And again, I think Rob sees that as being detrimental. I see it as being a positive thing. Scrolling through a lot of artists charge of signature. Scrolling through. Has there been a recent change in management at DC? I think that they let go of a few people. I want to say about 3 months ago. They let go of a few people. And I think part of why they did it was because I think they relocated from New York to like the Burbank area to be closer to Warner Brothers Studios. I think that was part of it. So there were some managerial changes as a result of the relocation and probably just some redundancies, especially because, again, you had people that were doing the movies at DC and now you have Warner Brothers. And so you have duplicity. And so I think that that was part of it. I want to say that there were fewer than like 20 people that were let go between the organizations when they relocated. But again, I think these are really good things that they're trying to do. Comic Fu says Green Lantern is really good too. I'm going to have to take your word for that because I've only read one Green Lantern. James Tomlinson is saying, yeah, A and B with an occasional C cover, like for Deceased, which is fantastic. I absolutely love that. I've been upset with DC ever since when I was young and they ruined the death of Superman comics. Moon Knight's taking it all the way back to what was that, like 93? Moon Knight's taking it way back in time. I am not mad at you, my friend. So Eddie Mullet says, how long can Marvel continue to put out books like Moon Girl and Squirrel Girl that sell so poorly every month? Again, if your goal is to be the top dog, not by quality, but by volume, right? Then there you go. You know, I don't really, I mean, we all probably went out and bought Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur when Omnipotentus was in there, and there was all the hype around Omnipotentus and what would potentially happen with that character. That's when I went out. I didn't even know what a Moon Girl was until I tried to do some spec stuff and realized that was actually a real thing, and went out and bought the book. And that book sits in a bin somewhere now, probably worth about what I paid for, which is about $3 or something like that. So how long can Marvel continue to do it? I don't know, bro. I really don't know how long you can produce something that people are not buying. I don't know. Yeah, so somebody making a point here that I made earlier that DC is doing away with the semi-monthly titles in 2020. Yes, they have already, I think, cut back, and they're cutting more back by 2020. And I think that's part of the reason why like the Tom King thing was cut short. I think Tom King is now going to end at like issue 85 versus 105 or something like that. So they're cutting it a little short because they're cleaning things up again, which I think is a very good thing. Scrolling through comics with Bueller says Liefeld sees all. Marcus Robertson, how you doing, my friend? I am glad. I'm glad that you were able to join the live stream. I was actually selling some books not that long ago, and we were having a conversation around a comic that I was going to sell to Marcos, and it didn't quite work out. To no fault of anyone's, it didn't quite work out. But I wish you luck, my friend. I wish you luck with being able to track down that book, because I think that they are definitely out there. Scrolling through some of the comments, Lost Comic Junkie is agreeing with some of the comments that I'm making here. Scrolling through Black Cat, there was a comment here about Black Cat. I missed it. James Tomlinson has said he read Black Cat, and he's giving the slanty eye over here. Cody Jones, I agree with you, sir. I read that Grant Morrison Green Lantern #1, and I struggled. I could not. I felt like that was not a good title to start with Green Lantern. I don't think that was the right title to start with. I felt like to read that Grant Morrison book. Grant Morrison is a little convoluted to begin with, but I think the way that he wrote that, you needed to have some background in Green Lantern and the universe in which he operates, and I did not have it. So I struggled. I also struggled with the artwork. I also struggle with that. I actually have a video up that I did of that. And yeah, we'll leave that one alone. I'm scrolling through some of the comments. Dragon Dew says, let's say you bring him an X-Force 1 to get him to charge you $25 and you give him New Mutants 98. He would charge you $60 to sign New Mutants 98. I guess you guys are having a conversation about some of those things. David, how you doing? Welcome to the channel. A couple of people making comments about books that they're excited to read. So let me see if there's any more here about Rob. Scrolling through some of the comments that he made. I actually did screen grabs of a lot of his stuff. Oh, this is a really funny comment. This is a really funny comment. So Rob is notorious for being on Twitter and doing Twitter rants, and he says that Twitter is basically his burner phone, right? So you would think that he was like cool with Twitter. He actually says here, Twitter is dying anyways. It's about smithereens now. Get with the times. So this is one of those things where there's a chance that he could turn on you at any moment, right? If you are a fan who makes a comment he doesn't like, you get blocked. If you are working with him and you do something that he doesn't like, then he just rants and raves like he did with Marvel and Major X and the other artists that did that one book that he didn't care for. He just like pooped on everybody. He's pooping on Twitter. He's pooping on DC. You know, it's one of those things where you're like, this guy has the potential to turn on just about anybody. I'm telling you, he needs a Rodney Green. So anybody that came in late, Rodney Green is my best friend in the world, and he is an awesome guy that has kept me on the straight and narrow for like 20 years and will probably go on for another 40 if I'm able to live that long. Fantastic guy. I started off this live stream talking about the fact that Rodney Green is my buddy, and that Rob Liefeld needs a friend like Rodney Green that will tell him to put the cell phone down, that will tell him to stop twittering and tweeting and commenting on things. So that's where that comment comes from. Comic Fu says, I don't think he was turning on Twitter. No, you don't think that that's what that comment was saying? He says, Twitter is dying anyways. It's about smithereens now. Get with the times. I don't really know another way to take that comment. I don't know another way to take that one. Rush Diehard. Rush sent me one of the nicest messages earlier today. I want to thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate the kind words and you sending me that email. So thank you for that. Smithereens was the social media platform in that Black Mirror episode. Now I got to watch it. Now I gotta watch. Now I gotta watch Black Mirror. I have not watched it. Liefeld is the Donald Trump of comics with his Twitter stuff. Please don't bring politics into this. Please, this could go wrong for so many different reasons. Jamil, how you doing, brother? So we were just sitting here having a little bit of fun, having a little bit of conversation about Rob Liefeld and some of his most recent antics on Twitter, in which he actually predicts the demise of DC Comics because of what, in my opinion, could be really good signs of them attempting to put out quality material. So Tina just got here. Tina, how you doing? It's good to see you. Scrolling through, Reggie and Rodney can't wait for the dynamic duo. So here's the thing, Rodney is a member, as am I, of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and Rodney's nickname was Dirty. And my kids watch this show called Stinky and Dirty. Every time I hear that little show, I think of Rodney, not because he's never mind. A guy like Rob Liefeld complains enough, and eventually he'll probably be right. Like a stopped clock, and all comic book industries in bad shape, held together by boosting numbers with variance. Unfortunately, IMJ, you are probably right about that. Yeah, I think that there is some truth in the statements that you are making there. That if you put out enough predictions, that sooner or later you're going to be right if you put out enough stuff, and then you'll be able to basically almost like validate everything that you've ever said because you were right that one time, you know? But I'll go back to what I was saying before about why would anyone basically root for the demise of an institution that is essentially the cornerstone of the industry that you actually supposedly love and derive your income from, right? He has been in the industry 33 years, since he was 18 years of age, producing comics, and he is basically trying to predict, if not promote, the demise of one of the major publishing houses in comics. It does not make sense, and I struggle with his motivation. What is he attempting to do? And we've talked about a couple of different things over the course of this video, and it could be that he is simply trying to remain relevant by saying outrageous things that will get him some attention, that ultimately in his mind will result in sales. And with those sales, well, not even sales, if something is on eBay being promoted for a certain price, he uses that as propaganda to support his artwork and to validate his artwork. You know, when Major X was selling for $25 or being offered on eBay for $25, he actually tweeted that out as evidence and validation of what it was that he had drawn. And, you know, I don't know what to do with that. So Brick Hunter says, everyone that talks down on Liefeld would do a 360 if they met him. I've met him personally, and he is the nicest guy. He just has strong opinions and expresses his opinions like everyone else. You know, I think, you know, what you're saying here, I think is valid, right? Because it takes a special kind of person to be mean to another person face to face. So is it a 360 or is it about civility, right? You have to be a special kind of person to be nasty to another person face to face, especially to a stranger. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's a 360 versus people adhering to societal norms, right? In terms of actually being nice to him. And I think it's fantastic that he's actually nice to people. And as many people that have said that Rob Liefeld is nice, I've heard the opposite from people. And I've never met him. I have no clue what he's like as a person. I would like to think that he's actually a nice person. But like many people, maybe he gets a little courageous behind the keyboard. Someone said earlier that he was drunk driving on Twitter. So, or drunk twittering, I think what the comment was. You know, I don't understand why, if he is the nicest guy, why he is the polar opposite of nice online. You know, I go back to what I was saying before, is I struggle with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with people expressing their opinions. And then you guys know this channel is all about that. Express your opinions, but do so civilly, right? Do so civilly. When you call people names, when you block people, when you promote the demise of an institution, I struggle with that. And like anyone, I want to talk a little bit about that, So I don't have anything against Rob Liefeld. Nothing, absolutely nothing. There is no hate in my heart. But when I see things like this that give me pause, I want to take a moment to kind of talk about them. You know what I'm saying? So there you go. I think a brick hunter. I think you have some legitimate points there. But um, scrolling through, um, scrolling through your addiction. Joe is making a point here. He's talking about a video that I released earlier today. If you guys haven't seen this, I did a video. There's a vlog on comic book addiction. If you are addicted to comics, it was actually a really fun video. It was a really fun vlog to make. I think it was like a one taker. I've been on this roll and I've just kind of gotten on here and been able to do like one take videos or vlogs, which is really cool because it saves on editing time. But it was a fun video, and I think people have enjoyed it, which I think is a good thing. I was a little worried about doing the video because I did not want to take anything away from people that actually have real addictions to drugs and alcohol, and you guys actually encouraged me to do it, and I'm thankful that you did, because I think that the video was pretty cool. So shout out to anyone, that Joe or anyone else that had an opportunity to actually watch that video and comment. I will get back to those comments at some point a little bit later this evening. So scrolling through some of the comments here. Donnie Kate says, Danny Costa, I apologize, says, you see someone's true colors when they're not in front of people. You could be right about that, bro. You could be right about that. Tina Cranston says, maybe he has an evil twin. Anything is possible. Anybody, it is possible. And it's just, I'm not everyone should always get along kind of guy. That's not my thing. I think because I actually like a little confrontation. I like a little bit of disagreement, because I think sometimes through different perspectives and different perspectives and opinions, oftentimes you arrive at a much better solution. I call it group think. And a lot of times what I do at work is I actually write ideas up on a wall. And I encourage people to come into my office and actually to attack those ideas, right? And they're not attacking me as a person, they're attacking the idea. And I think through that conflict, that convergence of conflicting ideas and opinions, that something magical can actually happen. So I'm not a can't we all just get along kind of guy. No. Disagreement is fine. It's how you disagree that is the difference. That's the difference. So I'm scrolling through body of work that has never lasted. Unlike comics brought on eBay, social media comments cannot be returned. Dragon says his wife says to him all the time that he has a comic book addiction. She might be right, my friend. She might be right. Here's one other thing that I'll say about Rob is that I think that he sometimes regrets some of the things that he says. And I say that because if you have watched any of his rants in real time, and I've actually done it, I've sat there and watched him in real time, you will see that comments will get deleted. Comments will get deleted like later in the day or the next day. And I think he'll go back and he'll be like, ooh, I probably shouldn't have said that. Ooh, and I think that is a sign of someone recognizing that they may have crossed a line, that they may have said or done some things that they should not have done. And one would hope that at some point, instead of trying to pull it back, that you think about it before you go into the situation, and maybe you don't do it. And that might be a better way to kind of handle some of these things. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've written emails to people and deleted them. I've written emails and not sent them and then deleted them, because sometimes when you're in the middle of something that upsets you, it's best that you not react. right? And I have a bias for action. It's sometimes best for you not to react, sometimes for you to have the thought, write it down, get it out so you feel better. Step away. Then when you come back to your senses, you're like, I'm probably not going to send this message. I'm going to say it a little bit different. That's how I think adults handle things. At least they should, you know? Here we go. IMJ says, we've all done that when he says, write, read, pause, delete. You see what I'm saying? That's how you're as a professional, that's how you're supposed to handle situations. And sometimes, you know what? You write that message, you read it, you step away, you come back, you read it again, and you're like, I'm still sending it. That's cool too, because now you're going into it knowing what you're doing, knowing you were sending a firebomb over the fence, you know, and that's cool. That's cool too, because sometimes you have to have courageous conversations. Sometimes things need to be said, you know, but this isn't one. This isn't one that I think needed to be said. And I wish I could know the origin of it. You know, when you just see the first tweet and that's where you kind of go from. I wish I would know whether something precipitated that, whether there was something that was done, whether he saw something that we have never had an opportunity to see, because maybe he has. Maybe as an industry insider, maybe someone that has been in this industry for 33 years, he has seen and heard something that we are not privy to, that leads him to believe these things are true. And if that were the case, then it would help everybody if he said that versus us just seeing the comments and reacting to the comments, you know. Lost Comic Junkie says he digs that. I'm guessing the philosophy of what I was just kind of breaking down. It has been more than 20 years since he and others almost bankrupted the entire industry. Looks like he's at it again. Says, I have telepathy. I hope not. I really do. I really do hope not. Being able to not speak in the heat of the moment is a maturity thing. Perhaps Rob's success at an early age has prevented him from having to learn that lesson. Well said, Comic Food. Well said. Because I can't tell you, you know, I've been in the professional world for a very long time, and I honestly have had several conversations where they started with, so this is a career limiting move. Several times over my career, you know, dating back to when I first graduated from college. I sat down with a lady by the name of Ann Forrestall in an office, and she talked with me about my attitude. And I was of the opinion back then that if I did my job, it didn't matter how I behaved. You know what I'm saying? And I realized from Ann Forrestall that how I behaved mattered just as much as the work that I did. And I always thought those things were not necessary. Like, you don't have to like me to like the work, but that's not the case. And I learned that lesson early on because someone actually cared enough about me as an individual to pull me to the side and to hip me to game. And I've had a mentor for a very long time. I followed her from company to company to company over a very long period of time. And she has had several conversations with me that begin with, so this is a career limiting move. And she does it not because she wants to hurt me, but because she likes me as a person and is invested in me. And I wish to someone's point here, I can't remember who it was, is that I wish that he had someone in his corner that could help him with some of those things. Because again, I'm not talking about the demise of this man. That is not what I'm attempting to do. No, that is not what I'm attempting to do. I just wish that he had someone in his corner that would help him through some of these things. You know what I'm saying? That would prevent him from having these temper tantrums, for lack of a better phrasing, you know. So I don't know. Change my YouTube handle. I'm going to show that comment. I have telepathy because that is funny. So anyway, I am about to wrap this thing up. I'm about to go out here and sit with the wife. We are watching Shameless. I can't even remember what episode we stopped on, but we are watching Shameless now. But I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me for a little bit. I enjoy these conversations with you guys. I really do. And I'm so thankful that we are able to kind of have these conversations in a productive manner, without people getting angry and all that kind of stuff, because that serves no purpose, you know. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out the video that I dropped earlier today about comic book addiction, please check it out. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a good video. And I have a lot of other good videos that are coming out over the course of this week, always at 3:30. So definitely check those out. If you guys need to reach me, feel free to do so at Reggie Collects on Instagram and reggiecollects@gmail.com. And lastly, before I get myself out of here, I want to give a huge shout out to God's Perfect Idiot 75 on Instagram, who told me about Rob's rant. So I want to thank you guys. I'm a believer that I have some of the best subscribers out there. I absolutely appreciate you guys giving me a heads up about things that you're seeing. It allows me to do really cool videos like this one. So thank you very much. And like I said, if you guys need me, I am around. Take care.